Cured somewhere along the way. Many of us stopped living. We started surviving. Not because we chose it, but because life, noisy, demanding, relentless, wore us down. One missed chance turned into self-doubt. One failure turned into fear. One disappointment turned into silence. And before we knew it, we weren't living our lives anymore. We were living smaller versions of ourselves. But deep down, something still burns, a stubborn, ancient fire, a whisper that refuses to die. Oh, it says, this is not who you were meant to be. This is not where your story ends. 3 months, 90 days. That's all it takes to start becoming a version of yourself. So real, so powerful, so alive that even the old you wouldn't recognize it. Now, this is not magic. This is not luck. This is the quiet power of a mind decided to change. This is the silent work of a soul awakened to its own strength. Through Stoicism, we don't wait for life to hand us a new beginning. We build it, we choose it, we fight for it. In the next few breaths, in the next few lessons, we'll walk the slow, fierce path back through the discomfort, through the resistance, through the fires that forge something unbreakable inside us. This is not motivation. This is remembering. This is returning. This is reclaiming what was always waiting for us. Under the noise, under the fear, under the forgetting. This is 3 months, 1,000 small choices, a lifetime of difference. Let's begin. Before we forget again, if you're ready to stop waiting and start building the life you were born, but this journey is yours. 7 lessons, 3 months, 1 decision that could echo across everything you touch. Before we dive deep, pause for a moment, scroll down and whisper it into the comments. I choose to rebuild. Not for views, not for approval, for the quiet part of you that still believes in growth, in courage, in transformation. Let me tell you a story. There was once a boy in a small, forgotten town. Every day, he walked the same cracked sidewalks, past the same broken dreams, under the same weary sky. One morning, he saw an old man planting tiny seeds along the dusty roadside. The boy laughed. Why waste time planting seeds? Nothing ever grows here. The old man smiled, his dusty hands cradling the dry earth. Maybe nothing ever grew because no one ever believed it could. That day, something shifted, not in the town, but inside the boy. He went home, dug into the stubborn dirt with trembling hands, planted his first seed, not because he knew it would work, but because he was done living like nothing could ever change. That's how rebirth begins, quietly, defiantly. One stubborn act of hope against a world that forgot how to dream. And this is where we begin. There's a reason most people never change. It's not because they're weak. It's not because they're lazy. It's because comfort feels safe. Lesson 1, break the comfort zone. The Stoics taught the walls we build to protect ourselves often become the prisons that trap us. At first, it feels innocent, choosing the easier path, taking the softer option, delaying the hard conversations, letting another day slip by, telling ourselves we'll start tomorrow. But slowly, almost invisibly, those tiny choices build a life we never wanted, a life too small for the fire inside us. Think about it. It's comfortable to wake up and scroll a phone for an hour. It's comfortable to stay in a job that drains the soul. It's comfortable to repeat the same excuses day after day until comfort becomes our only reality. But comfort is a liar. It whispers. Stay here. It's easy. It's safe. And in doing so, it steals years from us, years of potential, years of courage, years of becoming someone we were always meant to be. In a small town in Ohio, a woman worked the same cashier job for 12 years. Safe, predictable. Every week was a mirror of the last, until one day she realized she couldn't remember the last time she felt truly alive. She quit, took night classes, stumbled often, doubted herself even more. But today, she owns a bakery that lights up her entire street. Not because she got lucky, but because she decided being comfortable was no longer enough. Example 2. A former college athlete moved to New York City, dreamed of starting a fitness brand, had all the passion, all the fire, but fear kept him chained to a desk job for 5 long years, until one morning, while typing emails that meant nothing to him, he looked at his own hands and didn't recognize the life they were building. That night, he started filming workouts in a tiny, crowded apartment, posted videos no one watched at first, fought through the silence, fought through the doubt, and today, millions follow his journey. Example 3, a father of 2 in Texas, stuck in a cycle of overwork and guilt. Every day, the same routine, every day, the same silent sadness. Until one night, rocking his daughter to sleep, he whispered to himself, "I'm not teaching her how to live, I'm teaching her how to settle." That moment cracked something open inside him. He started waking up an hour earlier, began writing the novel he'd buried inside for years, one painful sentence at a time. Today, that book sits in libraries across the country. Comfort feels safe. But staying safe too long is the most dangerous thing we can do. Because comfort doesn't just steal our dreams, it steals our memory of who we could have been. The life we dream of is never inside the comfort zone. It's out there, beyond the fear, beyond the excuses, beyond the walls we built to keep ourselves small. And the first step, it's not grand, it's not loud, it's a tiny, invisible act of defiance, a whisper inside, "I will not die inside these walls." It's not about giant leaps, it's about stubborn, quiet steps. Steps that feel scary, steps that feel awkward, steps that remind us we are still alive. The Stoics didn't wait for permission to change. They didn't wait until fear disappeared. They moved, afraid but unstoppable. And so must we. Most people think fear means stop. The Stoics knew better. They taught fear doesn't mean stop. It means step carefully but keep moving. Comfort tells us, wait until you feel ready. Wait until the fear disappears. Wait until it's safe. But here's the truth. Ready is a lie. Safe is a mirage. If we keep waiting for the fear to leave, we'll wait forever. Real change happens when we move afraid, not because we're reckless, but because we finally understand. Fear is not a stop sign. Fear is a signal. It means you are standing at the edge of growth. A young teacher in Atlanta spent years dreaming of starting a community center, but self-doubt whispered, "Who are you to lead? Who are you to inspire?" For years, those doubts kept her frozen, until one day she realized the fear would never leave. The only thing that could change was her choice to move anyway. Today, hundreds of kids walk through doors she built from nothing but courage and tired hands. Example 2. A mechanic in Detroit dreamed of inventing a new tool for electric cars, but every time he started, fear showed up. You're not smart enough, you're just a mechanic. For a long time, he listened, stayed silent, but then he asked himself, what would happen if I just kept moving, even with fear riding on my shoulders? Today, that tool is used in repair shops across the Midwest. Example 3. A retired nurse in Arizona wanted to write a memoir about surviving addiction. She worried, what if no one reads it? What if everyone judges me? The fear was real, but so was her voice. She wrote every morning before the sun rose, tears sometimes blurring the words. That book became a lighthouse for thousands struggling in silence. Here's what the Stoics knew. You don't need to kill fear. You need to stop giving it the steering wheel. Let it ride, let it scream, let it whisper doubts, but never let it drive. Odom, every time you step forward scared, you steal a little power from the fear. Every time you move without waiting for certainty, you build the muscle of courage. Every time you choose progress over paralysis, you become more of who you were meant to be. Fear is not the enemy. Staying still is. Remember, the comfort zone is not lined with bricks. It's lined with invisible choices, stacked one soft excuse at a time, and the way out. It's not easy, it's not fast, but it's simple. One trembling step, then another, then another. Not because you feel ready, but because you are done waiting to be someone else's idea of ready. Move afraid, build afraid. Live afraid. Until one day, the fear tries to catch you, but you're already too far ahead. We often think transformation happens with one big decision. The Stoics knew it happens through 1,000 small, unseen choices. Breaking the comfort zone is not about one heroic leap. It's about tiny rebellions, tiny moments where you choose growth over familiarity, again and again and again. In Chicago, a software engineer felt trapped. Every day, the same work, every week, the same numbness. He dreamed of learning photography, but it felt silly, small, unimportant. Still, one Sunday, he picked up an old camera at a garage sale, started taking one photo a day, no audience, no plan, just a quiet rebellion against the life that was shrinking him. Today, his photos hang in local galleries, not because he waited for permission, but because he chose to begin. Badly, quietly, imperfectly. Example 2. A stay-at-home mom in Florida felt invisible. The days blurred together. Her dreams felt like ancient echoes. One afternoon, standing in a grocery store line, she promised herself, "Every day, I will do one thing that scares me." At first, it was tiny. Speaking up in a meeting, submitting a poem online, signing up for a local class, each act so small it seemed meaningless. But over time, those small cracks let the light back in. Today, she runs a non-profit that empowers women to rebuild their lives. Example 3. A teenager in Los Angeles, drowning in fear, dreamed of becoming a public speaker, but could barely say his name. Aloud, without shaking, instead of waiting for the fear to vanish, he made a deal with himself. One uncomfortable conversation every day, ordering coffee, asking for directions, introducing himself first. He treated courage like a muscle, and one day, almost without realizing it, he stood on a stage and spoke to 5,000 people. Here's the secret. Transformation is not loud, it's quiet, it's messy, it's invisible at first. But one day, you wake up, you look around, and the old life no longer fits. The old fears no longer own you. The old excuses feel like lies you don't believe anymore. Because while the world wasn't watching, you were changing while no one else noticed. You were becoming. While fear kept screaming, you kept moving. And that is how we break the comfort zone, not through fireworks, through fire, through persistence, through 1,000 small acts of rebellion against the life we refuse to be trapped inside. We don't break the comfort zone once, we break it every day in invisible, uncelebrated ways. The Stoics knew growth is not something we achieve and check off. It's something we must choose again and again, especially when no one is clapping, because the real battle is not outside, it's inside. Inside the small choices no one sees. Inside the silent wars between fear and action. Inside the endless crossroads between the easy way and the way that makes us more. A truck driver in Kansas City, 40 years old, 2 kids, paycheck to paycheck. One day, stuck in traffic, he heard a podcast about coding. Something stirred. A dream he didn't even know he was allowed to have. Night after night, exhausted from work, He stayed up learning Python under flickering kitchen lights. It wasn't glamorous, no one cheered, but 2 years later, he walked out of that truck for the last time and into a tech job he built with bloody, unseen hands. Example 2. A waitress in Denver served coffee for 15 years. She dreamed of becoming a therapist, but money was tight. Confidence was tighter. Still, she scraped together tuition for one night class, failed her first exam, felt humiliated, but came back the next night, and the next, and the next. Today, her office is filled with stories she helped heal because she dared to start when nothing felt ready. Example 3. A retired Army vet in Seattle, haunted by old battles. He isolated, shut down, believed he was broken beyond fixing. But one afternoon, sitting at a park bench, he made one choice. Say hello to a stranger. It wasn't heroic, it wasn't easy. But that one hello to a conversation led to a support group, led to a new life. Today, he leads others through the darkness he once thought permanent. Here's what the Stoics understood. The comfort zone is not one wall, it's a maze. Every day it rebuilds itself, and every day we must push through it again. Sometimes it's loud, quitting the job, starting the business. Sometimes it's silent, sending the email, making the call, lifting your head and choosing not to flinch. But every act matters. Every small, defiant choice matters. Every whisper of courage against the easy path matters. Transformation is not built in the spotlight. It's built in the dark, when no one is looking, and you keep moving anyway, one small rebellion at a time, one stubborn breath at a time, one unseen victory at a time. Complaining feels good for a moment. It gives us a quick rush of power, a tiny illusion of control. Lesson 2, release the complaints. But the Stoics knew, every time we complain, we give away our power. Every time we blame, we shrink our own strength. Complaints are easy. Taking responsibility is hard, but only one of them will change your life. A woman in Chicago lost her job during a company downsizing. For months, she complained to everyone. It's not fair. No, they didn't appreciate me. The system is broken. The anger felt righteous, but nothing changed. No new opportunities, no new hope, just bitterness, feeding itself day after day, until one morning, standing in line at a coffee shop, she overheard someone say, "Your life doesn't start changing when things go right. It starts changing when you stop complaining about what went wrong." That hit like thunder. She stopped blaming, started learning new skills. Within 6 months, she was in a better role than she ever imagined. Example 2. A college student in Miami kept failing courses every semester. The same story. The teachers are unfair, or the exams are too hard, and I'm not good at this. Excuse after excuse, blame after blame, until a professor pulled him aside and said, "If you spent half as much energy studying as you do complaining, you'd already be unstoppable." Something broke open inside him. He stopped justifying failure. He started owning his journey. Today, he's not only a graduate, he's the first in his family to earn a PhD. Example 3. A young man in Seattle blamed the world for his loneliness. People are fake, but no one cares. But it's not worth trying. It felt safer to sit behind the wall of resentment until he asked himself a brutal question. What if I'm not unlucky? What if I'm unavailable? He started making small efforts, reaching out first, listening more, risking rejection. Today, his life is filled with real friendships, not because the world changed, but because he did. Here's what the Stoics knew. Life doesn't owe us anything, but it offers us everything, if we are willing to stop wasting energy on what we can't control. Complaining feels powerful, but it is empty. Action is where real power lives. Every time you resist the urge, to blame, and instead choose to act, you take back a piece of yourself. Every time you let go of resentment, you make room for clarity. Every time you choose responsibility over bitterness, you grow stronger than whatever tried to break you. The world will always give us reasons to complain, but the real question is, will we stay prisoners to our anger or architects of our comeback? Boom! Most complaints are not about the world. They are about the gap between what we expected and what life gave us. The Stoics taught the pain is not in what happened. The pain is in the demand that it should have been different. Complaining feels natural. It feels justified. It feels like standing up for ourselves. But in truth, it's often just another way we refuse to accept reality. A man in Boston spent years angry at his father. He should have been there for me. Named, he should have taught me better. Maybe he was right. Maybe he deserved better. But the years of anger didn't heal anything. They just kept him small. One evening, after a rough Thanksgiving dinner, he sat alone and realized his father was never going to change, but he could. He chose to stop wishing for a different past. He chose to become the father he never had. Today, his children know a different story because he stopped complaining about the pain and started building something new. Example 2. A woman in Portland hated her job. Every Monday, she complained to anyone who would listen. They don't pay me enough. Man, they don't see my value. They treat me like I'm invisible. But nothing changed, because the more she spoke about what was wrong, the less energy she had left to make. Anything right? One morning, staring at her reflection, she whispered, "What if I used this frustration to build my exit? What if I stopped rehearsing my pain and started rehearsing my power?" She took evening courses, built freelance clients on weekends. Within a year, she resigned with gratitude, not anger. Example 3. A young man in Austin blamed his circumstances for his depression. No opportunities, no mentors, no breaks, and maybe he was right. Life had been unfair, but the Stoics would ask, is the world unfair? Or are you wasting your energy mourning it? One night he picked up a notebook, wrote one line. "Today I will build anyway." One line turned into two. Two lines turned into habits. Habits turned into a life. Today he mentors others stuck in the same storms he once cursed. Here's the deeper truth. Every complaint holds a secret question. Will I surrender to this pain, or will I transform it? Do complaints feel good in the short term, but they steal our hope in the long term. They make us passive. They make us wait for life to fix itself. But life is not coming to save us. We must become the rescue. Every time we stop complaining and start building, we become bigger than what hurt us. Every time we release the story of how it should have been, we open ourselves to how powerful it still can be. The Stoics didn't pretend life was fair. They simply refused to let injustice be the end of their story. And so can we. There's a hidden addiction. No one talks about an addiction to complaining. The Stoics understood whatever we practice, we get better at. If we practice anger, we become angry. If we practice blame, we become powerless. If we practice complaining, we build a mind addicted to seeing problems instead of possibilities. A musician in Nashville spent years bitter about the industry. They don't appreciate real talent, and it's all politics. Maybe he was right. Maybe the system was unfair, but every hour he spent complaining was an hour he wasn't creating. One day, sick of his own voice, he made a new choice. Create more than he complained. Write more songs than criticisms. Sing louder than his bitterness. Today, his music isn't mainstream, but it's alive, and so is he. Example 2. A young woman in New York blamed her past relationships. Men are trash, and love is a lie. Her pain was real, but her conclusions became a prison. One afternoon, journaling in a coffee shop, she wrote, "What if the common thread isn't them? It's my lack of boundaries." That question cracked something open. She stopped complaining about how she was treated and started raising her standards. Today, she moves with a quiet dignity that attracts real love, not chaos. Example 3. A software engineer in San Francisco hated corporate culture, meetings, deadlines, politics. Every lunch break, he vented with co-workers. Until one day, walking back to his desk, he realized, the more I talk about what I hate, the less I build what I love. He spent nights coding his own project instead of complaining. Within a year, he launched a startup, a space built by passion, not resentment. Here's the deeper truth. Every complaint becomes a brick, and every brick builds a wall between who we are and who we could be. The Stoics didn't waste energy resenting obstacles. They used obstacles as training. Every setback was a gym for the soul. Every injustice was a weight to lift. Every difficulty was a forge to become stronger. The choice is always there. Use the pain as an excuse to stay small, or use it as a reason to rise higher. Every time you resist the urge to complain, you sharpen your mind. You stretch your patience. You build the inner architecture of someone who can weather any storm, not by pretending everything is fine, but by refusing to make suffering your home. Pain is inevitable. Complaining is optional. And freedom begins the moment we stop rehearsing our helplessness and start rehearsing our power. If you don't master your mind, someone or something will. Lesson 3. Master yourself before life masters you. The Stoics taught the battlefield is not outside, it's within. The real war is not against others. It's against the parts of us that want to stay weak, reactive, and lost. If you don't control your focus, distraction will. If you don't control your emotions, fear will. If you don't control your decisions, the world will. Make them for you. A woman in Los Angeles dreamed of starting her own brand. Every time she tried to focus, notifications hijacked her mind. Just 5 more minutes. One more scroll. Hours lost. Energy scattered. Until one night, staring at the clock flashing 2 a.m., she whispered, "I'm not losing to them, I'm losing to me." She deleted every app, turned off every ping, reclaimed her mind from the world's noise. Today, she runs a thriving brand, not because life got easier, but because she stopped giving away her attention. Example 2, a young man in Houston wanted to get fit. Every January, the same promise. This year will be different. Every February, the same story. Life got busy, and it's too hard. He realized the gym wasn't the problem. His relationship with discomfort was. He didn't need a new plan. He needed a new identity. He chose discipline over feeling, routine over motivation. He built a body, but more importantly, he built a mind that doesn't fold when things get hard. Example 3, an entrepreneur in New York felt overwhelmed. Every opportunity, every rejection, every tiny setback. He reacted like the world was ending. One mentor told him, "The world doesn't break you, your own mind does." That cut deeper than he expected. He started practicing Stoic exercises, daily journaling, breathing through frustration, choosing response over reaction. Today, he still faces chaos, but he walks through it calm, steady, unbroken. Here's the hard truth. If you don't train your mind, someone else will train it for you. If you don't claim your emotions, someone else will manipulate them. If you don't choose your actions, you'll be dragged by impulses you don't even understand. The Stoics didn't aim for perfect control. They aimed for consistent mastery, not mastery someday. Mastery every day, in the small choices, in the private battles, in the invisible moments when no one is watching. Because if you can't master yourself, life will master you, circumstances will master you, emotions will master you, fear will master you, and nothing feels heavier than a life lived under the rule of everything except your own soul. You can't control the storms, but you can become the kind of person who doesn't break in them. The Stoics taught freedom is not about escaping life's chaos. It's about mastering the way we respond to it. Because here's the brutal truth. Most people are not living. They are reacting to news, reacting to moods, reacting to fears that aren't even theirs. A small business owner in Atlanta lost everything during a recession. Friends told him, "You have every right to be furious," and he was. But then he realized the anger wasn't fixing anything, it was poisoning him. He decided if he couldn't control the economy, he could control the story he told himself. He started again. Different approach, different mindset. Today, his second business is not just successful. It's a fortress built from resilience, not resentment. Example 2, a nurse in Seattle. Burned out during the pandemic, patience, loss, exhaustion. She wanted to quit everything. One night she wrote in her journal, "Pain is certain, suffering is optional." That became her anchor. She couldn't save everyone. She couldn't erase the tragedies. But she could master the way she showed up, with presence, with grace, with fierce compassion. Today, she trains other nurses in emotional resilience. Example 3. A college athlete in Boston tore his ACL weeks before his big season. Dream shattered. Scholarships gone. For days, he let the anger drown him. But then, a quiet realization. If my body is broken, my mind doesn't have to be. He shifted focus, rehabbed fiercely, became a coach instead of a player. Today, he leads one of the strongest underdog teams in the country. The world will always test us. Loss, rejection, betrayal, chaos. We can't choose what storms come, but we can choose, will we break? Or will we become unbreakable? The Stoics believed life is training. Every difficulty is a chance to build the mind. Every hardship is a weight to lift. Every insult is a mirror to see what still triggers us, and an invitation to master. In their tomb, the storms are not our enemies. They are our teachers. You don't need a life without storms. You need a soul that doesn't lose itself inside them. And that begins every time you master yourself, before the world tries to master you. Mastery isn't built in the spotlight. It's built in the moments no one sees. The Stoics knew, if you can't master yourself when no one is watching, you will crumble when the world is. Most people wait for motivation, wait for perfect conditions, wait for someone to validate their worth. But mastery doesn't wait. Mastery moves, especially when no one else is. A college dropout in Denver wanted to build an online business, but the doubts screamed louder than any dream. No fancy office, no followers, no roadmap. Every day, the easy choice called stay safe and stay invisible. But he made a different choice. Create one thing every day, even when no one watched, even when it felt pointless. Today, that tiny blog has grown into a six-figure coaching company because he mastered himself before the world cared. Example 2. A woman in New Orleans wanted to run a marathon. Problem? She couldn't even run a mile without gasping. The first few weeks were brutal. Rain-soaked shoes, cramps, self-doubt like a constant scream. But she made a vow. I will be the kind of person who keeps going, even when no one claps. Slowly, painfully, she built her strength mile by mile, choice by choice. Today, she's crossed finish lines most people never even dare to approach. Example 3. An artist in Brooklyn spent years waiting for non-inspiration to strike. Waiting for the perfect idea. Waiting for the perfect moment. it never came. One night, fed up with his own waiting, he whispered, "Inspiration is a luxury. Discipline is my only chance." He set a rule: create every day, inspired or not. Drawings, paintings, sketches no one would ever see. 2 years later, a gallery owner stumbled across his work. Today, his art hangs in homes across the world, not because he waited for greatness, but because he worked through the ordinary. Here's the real secret. Mastery is not a feeling, it's a practice. It's not about being the best on your best day. It's about showing up on your worst day. The Stoics knew easy choices, soft life, hard choices, strong soul. Every time you move without applause, you build something indestructible inside. Every time you keep your word to yourself, you become the kind of person storms can't shake. Every time you act from values instead of moods, you reclaim your freedom. Mastery is not something you find, it's something you become. And it starts here, in the quiet, in the unseen, in the 1,000 tiny moments when no one is watching. And you choose to be great anyway. But the first battle is not with the world, it's with the way we react to it. Lesson 4. Control your reactions and take back your power. The Stoics taught, no. One can make you angry without your consent. No one can humiliate you unless you hand them the keys. No one can destroy your peace unless you let them walk through your mind, uninvited. Reaction is easy. Control is power. A man in Chicago got fired without warning, publicly, harshly. His instinct screamed, "Get revenge. Burn it all down." For days, rage filled his veins, until one night, walking alone by the lake, he remembered something his grandfather once said, "Don't let them live rent-free inside you." That night, he made a different choice. Instead of letting the anger rot him, from the inside, he wrote a resignation letter he never sent. He built a resume instead of a grudge. 3 months later, he had a better job and a lighter soul. Example 2. A woman in Dallas was publicly insulted by a family member at Thanksgiving. The old version of her would have lashed out, escalated, played the victim, but she breathed. Remembered, their words are their reflection, not mine. She smiled politely, chose silence, chose dignity. Later, that same family member reached out privately to apologize, not because she fought harder, but because she held her ground with grace. Example 3. A college freshman in Miami posted a creative project online and got mocked hard. The temptation to fire back was overwhelming. Every insult felt personal. But he asked himself, am I here to impress them or to build me? He took a break from social media, kept creating, kept improving. 3 years later, the same people who mocked him were asking for his advice. Here's the brutal truth. When you react without thinking, you hand over your power. You let the world control your temperature. You become a puppet, dancing to other people's chaos. The Stoics didn't say, "More don't feel." They said, "More don't let feeling become a prison." Feel the anger, but don't. Be driven by it. Feel the hurt, but don't let it steer you. Feel the fear, but walk forward anyway. Reaction is instinct. Control is art. And every time you choose to pause instead of explode, to breathe instead of burn, to hold your center instead of chasing noise, you take back a piece of yourself. Master your reactions, and you master your life. Most people lose not because of the battle, but because of the way they react to it. The Stoics understood you can survive anything if you don't let your own mind turn against you. The real danger is rarely outside. It's the chaos we invite inside. A startup founder in San Francisco watched a major investor pull out at the last second. Overnight, his funding collapsed. Everyone expected him to panic, to lash out, to blame. And for a few moments, he almost did. But then he remembered. The external event is neutral. My reaction gives it meaning. He chose to act, not react. He tightened his team, streamlined his vision, focused harder. 6 months later, a better investor walked in because he had become a better leader. Example 2. A single mom in Philadelphia was left at the altar, humiliated, heartbroken. Her instinct screamed, "Destroy everything and burn it all down." But as she sat on her porch that night, wedding dress still crumpled at her feet, she asked herself, "Will I let this define me or refine me?" She chose healing, chose therapy, chose rebuilding. Today, she leads workshops for women reclaiming their power after heartbreak. Example 3. A young man in Detroit was rejected by his dream college. Crushed, embarrassed, he could have spiraled. Could have let that one moment brand his self-worth. Instead, he remembered a line from Marcus Aurelius, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't be." He reapplied elsewhere, crushed it, graduated top of his class, and built a career no rejection could steal. Here's the truth. The first, impact rarely breaks us. It's our reaction that does. You can't control who betrays you. You can't control what doors close. You can't control the storms, but you can always control this. How you interpret it, how you frame it, how you respond to it. The Stoics didn't become strong by avoiding pain. They became strong by refusing to be owned by it. Every insult is a chance to practice dignity. Every setback is a chance to practice resilience. Every loss is a chance to practice grace. Life isn't asking for your perfection, it's asking for your self-mastery. And the first step is simple. Pause, breathe, choose your response. Instead of being dragged by your reaction, the moment you control your reaction, you change the outcome. The Stoics taught the insult doesn't hurt you. Your decision to be hurt does. The betrayal doesn't break you. Your choice to stay broken does. Power is not about controlling others. It's about mastering the space between stimulus and response. A high school teacher in Chicago was publicly criticized by a parent, unfairly, aggressively. The old version of her would have reacted instantly, defended herself, fought back. But she breathed, paused, remembered, I can't control their disrespect. I can only control my own decency. She responded calmly, stated facts, not emotions. The room shifted. The respect she earned wasn't from fighting harder, but from standing taller. Example 2. An entrepreneur in Austin was sued unfairly by a former partner. The rage burned hot. Every fiber of his being wanted revenge. But he remembered something an old mentor once said, "Never wrestle with pigs. You both get dirty, and the pig likes it." He chose a different battlefield, handled it legally, handled it professionally. While his ex-partner crumbled under rage, he built a new venture with his energy intact. Example 3. A young artist in Los Angeles faced a brutal public review, mocked, belittled. Her instinct was to disappear, hide, but she remembered, if I let one voice silence me, then my art was never mine to begin with. She kept painting, kept showing up. Today, that same critic who tried to tear her down brags about discovering her non-early work. Here's the deeper truth. Every time you react impulsively, you become a puppet on someone else's stage. Every time you respond consciously, you step back into the director's chair of your own life. The world will poke, will insult, will betray, will misunderstand. But your reaction, that's yours, forever. The Stoics weren't emotionless. They were masters of emotion. They felt it, owned it, transformed it into something greater, not because they were cold, but because they refused to be controlled. You can feel the fire, you can feel the sting, you can feel the weight, but you must never surrender the power to choose your next move. Because the real battlefield is always inside, and victory belongs to the one who masters it. Some battles are won by fighting harder. Some are only won by laying down the sword. Lesson 5. Accept what you cannot change and find true freedom. The Stoics taught freedom isn't getting everything you want. Freedom is wanting less from what you can't control. Pain comes from resistance. We think it shouldn't have happened. It's not fair. It's not supposed to be this way. But reality doesn't bend to our wishes. The rain falls, the market crashes, people leave, life unfolds, indifferent to our plans. A woman in San Diego lost her home to a wildfire, everything gone, photos, memories, history. At first, she fought it inside. This can't be real. This isn't fair. The anger burned hotter than the fire itself, but after weeks of suffering, she sat alone in a borrowed apartment and whispered, "It happened. Now what?" Acceptance didn't erase the pain, but it stopped the pain from owning her. Today, she helps others rebuild, not from denial, but from a deeper strength born from acceptance. Example 2. A man in Boston lost his hearing in an accident. Musician, performer. His entire identity shattered. He spent months furious at fate. But one morning, watching the sunrise in silence, he realized, I can hear with my heart, I can feel rhythm through life itself. He started composing music through vibration, through emotion. Today, he teaches music to deaf children, not because he ignored reality, but because he embraced it fully. Example 3. A teenager in Miami lost a sports scholarship after an injury. Dream gone, future uncertain. He spiraled for weeks until a mentor said, "You can keep mourning the door that closed, or you can start building a new house." That line cracked something open. He pivoted, discovered a passion for physical therapy. Today, he helps athletes recover, turning his own loss into someone else's comeback. Here's the secret the Stoics knew. You don't have to love what happened, but you have to stop fighting what is. Acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is recognizing, I don't control the rain, but I can learn to dance in it. Every time you surrender to what you cannot change, you free up energy to change what you can. Every time you stop fighting reality, you begin building resilience. Every time you embrace life as it is, you step into your true power. Fighting what cannot be changed is a prison. Accepting it is the beginning of peace. Most of our pain doesn't come from what happened. It comes from the way we refuse to accept it. The Stoics understood. Reality doesn't ask for your approval. It moves, it breathes, it breaks, and it keeps moving, with or without your permission. The more you resist, the more you suffer, the more you accept, the more you are free. A young man in Denver was dumped unexpectedly after a 5-year relationship. Everything hurt, the plans, the dreams, the idea of forever. At first, he fought the story. It shouldn't end this way. We were supposed to last. The resistance kept him trapped, until one night, staring at an empty phone screen, he whispered, "She left. I'm still here." Acceptance cracked the first light into his darkness. He began healing, not because he wanted the breakup, but because he stopped fighting its existence. Example 2. A woman in New York lost her dream job in a company collapse. It wasn't her fault, but the rage consumed her. She replayed the injustice 1,000 times, every memory sharper than the last. Until one morning, walking through Central Park, she realized, the world doesn't owe me fairness. It owes me nothing. That wasn't bitterness, it was clarity. She stopped asking, "Ratchet, why me?" She started asking, "Ratchet, what now?" Today, she runs her own consulting firm, stronger, freer, because she built herself after everything fell. Example 3. An aspiring Olympic swimmer in Atlanta missed qualification by half a second. Half a second, years of training, a dream shattered. The temptation to drown in bitterness was overwhelming, but he made a vow. I will not let half a second define my whole life. He pivoted, became a coach. Today, he has trained athletes who did qualify and credits that missed moment for showing him his deeper purpose. Here's what the Stoics knew. Acceptance isn't giving up, it's giving yourself back. When you accept what you cannot change, you stop wasting your energy on rage. You stop feeding your helplessness. You start directing your power toward what you can change. You start building instead of mourning. You start acting instead of wishing. You start living instead of fighting shadows. Pain doesn't destroy us. Refusal to face it does. The rain will fall. The storms will come. People will leave. Dreams will die. But you get to decide whether you stay chained to what should have been, or step free into hurt what can still become. You cannot negotiate reality. You can only transform yourself through it. The Stoics taught the obstacle doesn't block the path. The obstacle is the path. Suffering happens when we demand the world match our expectations. Freedom happens when we adapt ourselves to the world as it is. A man in Seattle lost his father to illness, sudden, brutal. There were no goodbyes, no last moments. He spent months trapped in what-ifs. If only we had caught it earlier. If only I had called more. But the past is a door that doesn't reopen. One night, sitting by the sea, he whispered, "I cannot rewrite what happened. I can only honor it." He started a foundation for early disease awareness. He transformed grief into legacy. Example 2. A mother in Chicago raised a son with autism. First, she fought reality. Why him? Why us? Every day was a battle against what life gave her. Until one morning, after a meltdown, she broke down and whispered, "Maybe this isn't happening to us. Maybe it's happening for us." From that moment, everything changed. She started learning differently, loving differently, seeing differently. Today, her son thrives, not because life got easier, but because she stopped demanding it to be different. Example 3. An actor in Los Angeles spent years chasing fame, auditions, rejections, doors slammed shut. For a long time, he raged against the unfairness. Until one day he realized, maybe I'm not meant to be seen by millions. Maybe I'm meant to change the few I do reach. He started a local theater program for at-risk youth. Today, hundreds of kids find hope through stages he built, stages that fame would have never given him. Here's the truth. Reality isn't your enemy. Your resistance to it is. The rain isn't personal. The loss isn't punishment. The closed door isn't betrayal. It's life, raw, unfiltered, and full of invitations to grow, if you're willing to accept the terms. The Stoics didn't deny reality. They danced with it. They worked with it. They let it shape them into something stronger. Acceptance doesn't mean you love every storm. It means you trust yourself to survive them. It means you believe something greater can be built, even from the ruins. You are not what you lost. You are what you choose to build after. Accept, adapt, rise, and in that rising, you will find a freedom no chaos can steal. The world is loud, but your soul is quiet. Lesson 6. Focus on what truly matters. Cut through the noise. The Stoics taught, you will never have peace if you chase every noise. You must choose, or the world will choose for you. Every day the noise calls, buy this, best you follow that, best be more, best do more. And if you're not careful, you spend your life chasing things that don't even belong to your heart. A marketing executive in New York City chased every promotion, worked weekends, answered emails at midnight, awards piled up, but so did the emptiness. One night, after winning Blana's Employee of the Year, she sat alone with the trophy and whispered, "Why does this feel so hollow?" She realized she was living someone else's definition of success, not her own. She quit, started a small design studio. Today, she earns less money, but wakes up each morning with more joy than a decade of awards ever gave her. Example 2. A college student in Chicago obsessed over social media. Every like, every comment. Every view, a tiny hit of validation. Until one afternoon, staring at his own face through a filtered lens, he thought, "Do I even know who I am without this noise?" He deleted every app for 90 days. In the silence, he found himself again. Today, he builds digital spaces focused on real connection, not empty applause. Example 3. A young entrepreneur in Miami tried to do it all. E-commerce, dropshipping, cryptocurrency, startups, from sunrise to midnight, grinding endlessly. But he felt nothing. Until one weekend, visiting his grandmother, she asked, "Are you building a life or just building busyness?" That question changed everything. He focused, chose one thing, one mission. Today, his business flourishes because he cut through the noise and chose depth over distraction. Here's what the Stoics knew: you can't outrun emptiness, you can only outfocus it. Every non-yes to noise is a denoise to your soul. Every time you chase everything, you build nothing. Every time you say yes to what doesn't matter, you say no to the life that does. Focus isn't about doing more. It's about remembering what matters most. You don't need a busier life. You need a clearer one. The world will offer you noise. You must offer yourself clarity. Protect your attention like it's sacred, because it is. Focus, build, become. You will never find yourself chasing everything. You only find yourself by choosing less, but choosing deeper. The Stoics knew the man who tries to please the crowd loses himself to it. Not every opportunity is your opportunity. Not every invitation is your path. Not every voice deserves your attention. A young artist in Austin spent years bouncing between styles. One week, pop art. Next week, surrealism. Next week, street graffiti. Every trend felt like a new race to win. Until one night, exhausted and uninspired, he realized, "I'm chasing applause, not my own soul." He unplugged, took 6 months away from the spotlight. In that silence, his true voice emerged. Today, his exhibitions sell out, not because he chases trends, but because he embodies truth. Example 2. A software developer in Silicon Valley tried to build a dozen side projects at once. Crypto apps, AI startups, fitness apps, all glitter, no depth, nothing grew, until one of his mentors said, "You're digging a dozen 1-foot holes. You need to dig 1 50-foot well." That line changed everything. He chose one project, one obsession, poured every ounce of energy into it. Today, that one app funds his freedom because he traded FOMO for focus. Example 3. A teacher in Denver found herself overwhelmed by modern education demands. New teaching methods, new technologies, new testing metrics, new paperwork. She spent years drowning in sheets more, until one burnout hospitalization forced her to ask, "What actually matters in my classroom?" The answer was simple: connection, empowerment, real learning, not just grades. She cut out everything that wasn't essential. Today, her students thrive because she taught from the soul, not from the system. Here's the deeper truth. Life doesn't demand more from you. It demands more of the right things from you. Clarity is the superpower most people never build, because clarity requires courage. The courage to say no, the courage to be misunderstood, the courage to walk a path quieter, but truer. The Stoics weren't against ambition. They were against distraction. Chase everything, lose yourself, focus on what matters, find yourself. Every time you choose depth over noise, you take one step closer to a life that feels like yours. Choose less, but choose real. The rest is just noise. The world is full of distractions, but your life is too sacred to waste chasing them. The Stoics taught, the man who is everywhere is nowhere. If you give your mind to everything, you give yourself to nothing. A young mother in Portland tried to do it all. Perfect Instagram home, perfect meals, perfect career, perfect body, but inside she was crumbling. One evening, after collapsing from exhaustion, she asked herself, what if the life I'm killing myself to create isn't even the life I want? She cut out everything non-essential, focused on her children, her health, her peace. Today, her life is simpler, but infinitely richer. Example 2. A Wall Street analyst in New York chased promotions for a decade, every new title, every new bonus, every new milestone, until one rainy night. Stuck in traffic after another 80-hour week, he whispered, "I traded my time for a title." He realized he had climbed a ladder leaning against the wrong wall. He left, became a financial coach for young entrepreneurs. Today, he earns less money, but lives with more purpose. Example 3. A freelance designer in Seattle accepted every project, every client, every request, because saying no felt scary, felt like missing out, until she burned out so hard she couldn't open her laptop. Rock bottom forced her to ask, what kind of work actually sets my soul on fire? She chose, bravely, painfully. Today, she only works on projects that align with her spirit, and her creativity has never been stronger. Here's the quiet truth. You don't need to win every race. You need to win the race that matters to your soul. Noise will always offer you a million shiny distractions. Focus will offer you your life back. The Stoics knew discipline isn't punishment, it's freedom. Every no to what doesn't matter is an inch yes to the life you are meant to live. Every time you walk away from noise, you walk closer to clarity. Every time you choose depth over chaos, you become someone unstoppable. You can keep chasing what the world says is important, or you can become the kind of person who defines importance for yourself. One clear focus, one real mission, one brave soul. That's all it takes to cut through the noise and finally hear your own life calling back. One day, everything you chase will fade, but who you became will remain. Lesson 7. Build a life aligned with virtue, the legacy that endures. The Stoics taught, your money will vanish, your fame will die, even your body will fail, but your character, your virtue, can echo far beyond your final breath. We spend so much of life chasing trophies that rust, chasing applause that fades, chasing admiration from people who won't even remember our names. But virtue endures. A corporate lawyer in Washington, D.C. spent 20 years building a perfect career. Big cases, big wins, big salary. But one afternoon, sitting in a hospital room after his heart attack, he whispered, "I won every case and lost myself." That moment shattered him open. He shifted, began mentoring young lawyers on ethics, teaching them that how you win matters more than if you win. Today, his proudest legacy isn't in courtrooms. It's in the hearts he helped shape. Example 2. A tech founder in San Francisco built $1 billion company. The fame, fortune, features in every major magazine. But loneliness clawed at his soul. One night, after a charity event, he asked himself, will they remember my bank account or how I made them feel? He restructured his life, focused on generosity, service, real human connection. Today, his true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the lives uplifted by his kindness. Example 3. A school teacher in a small Texas town taught for 40 years. No viral fame, no fortune, no spotlights. But when she retired, the entire town lined the streets. Student after student stood up and said, "You believed in me when no one else did, that you taught me how to believe in myself." Her paycheck was small, but her legacy was immense. Here's what the Stoics understood. Glory fades, trends vanish, but a good soul leaves ripples that never stop moving. You will not be remembered for how many followers you had. You will be remembered for how deeply you lived, how bravely you loved, how fiercely you stayed true. Every decision matters, every tiny act of integrity matters, every silent choice to be better matters. Character isn't built when people are watching. It's built in the dark, in the decisions no one sees, in the struggles no one applauds, in the sacrifices no one understands. Build your life on virtue, not because the world rewards it, but because your soul demands it. And when the noise of the world fades, your legacy will still be speaking. The trophies will gather dust, but the way you made people feel, that lasts forever. The Stoics taught, don't waste your life polishing statues that time will erode. Polish your soul instead, because in the end, your resume fades, but your reputation echoes. A politician in Atlanta spent decades chasing elections, campaigns, ads, fundraisers. But one afternoon, visiting a children's hospital he once quietly helped, a young boy hugged him and said, "Thank you for caring when no one else did." No cameras, no headlines, just a pure human moment. He realized this, not the speeches, not the votes, was what mattered. He shifted, focused his final years not on winning, but on serving. Today, long after his office ended, his impact continues. Example 2. A fashion designer in Los Angeles chased trends for years, hot one season, forgotten the next. Until one evening, walking alone after a failed show, she thought, I'm designing for approval, not for authenticity. She changed, created pieces that spoke to identity, to spirit, to something timeless. Her fame shrank, but her ART grew. Today, her work is studied, not for being trendy, but for being true. Example 3, a chef in New Orleans built a restaurant empire, awards, Michelin stars, celebrity status. But when his mother passed, he found her. Old handwritten recipes, simple, soulful meals she made for love, not praise. He cried, remembered why he started. He returned to basics, cooked with heart again. Today, his small family-owned restaurant outshines all his old glittering ventures because it feeds not just the body, but the soul. Here's what the Stoics knew. External success is sweet, but internal success is what actually sustains you. Virtue isn't glamorous. Virtue isn't loud. Virtue often goes unnoticed, but it makes you unbreakable. It makes you proud in the places no one sees but you. You don't need the world's applause to know you lived well. You need to know, deep down, you stayed true when no one was watching. Live for something bigger than your ego. Live for your soul. Because fame fades, fortunes fall. But a good heart, that's eternal. When the noise fades, when the applause stops, only your soul remains. The Stoics taught, you don't own anything except your character. Everything else is rented, and one day must be returned. Your house, your car, your job, even your body. All temporary, but your virtue, that's yours to keep forever. A firefighter in Houston spent 30 years running into burning buildings, saved countless lives, rarely made the news, rarely got awards. But at his retirement party, a little girl, now grown, hugged him and said, "You saved my family. You gave me my life. No cameras, no fame, just a legacy etched in human hearts." Example 2. A nurse in Minnesota worked night shifts for decades, cared for strangers in their most vulnerable moments, held hands of the dying when no family came, wiped tears, shared laughs, offered silent, invisible acts of grace. When she retired, hundreds showed up, not for ceremony, but for gratitude. She left no fortune, but she left something rarer, a reputation built from compassion. Example 3. A quiet janitor in a Boston elementary school. Never missed a day, always smiled, always helped, no headlines, no praise. But years later at a school reunion, student after student mentioned him. He made school feel safe. He made me feel seen. He wasn't just cleaning floors. He was building belonging, building hope. Here's the deeper truth. You don't have to be rich to leave a fortune. You don't have to be famous to leave a mark. You don't have to be powerful to leave a legacy. Every act of kindness matters. Every choice to be honorable matters. Every time you choose right over easy, you strengthen the invisible walls of your soul. The Stoics lived knowing they would die. Their names would fade, but the quality of their spirit would ripple across centuries. You don't need a perfect life. You need a life aligned with what's true. Live so that when your time comes, you leave more light than shadow. In the end, they won't remember how loud you were. They'll remember how deeply you loved, how bravely you stood, and how fiercely you lived. One day, they won't remember the titles you held. They won't remember the trophies you collected. They won't even remember every word you said, but they will remember how you made them feel in the quiet moments. How you stood firm when it was easier to fold. How you chose integrity when it cost you everything. This is the true legacy. This is the silent monument built not of stone, but of soul. Remember, it's not about the world outside. It's about who you choose to become. Every day, every choice. Every silent moment when no one is watching but your own soul. The storms will come, the noise will rise, the world will try to shape you into something smaller, louder, angrier. But you can choose stillness, you can choose courage, you can choose to be a lighthouse, not a weather vane. You don't need another life, you just need to stop missing the one you already have. Carry these lessons with you. Break the comfort zone, release the complaints, master yourself, control your reactions. Accept what you cannot change, focus on what truly matters. Build your life aligned with virtue, not perfectly, but bravely, because every small act of integrity, every quiet choice for good, every moment you refuse to break under pressure, it all matters. And when your time comes, you will leave not just a life lived, but a life that echoes mum. Now breathe, stand tall, and walk forward with clarity, courage, and peace. If your heart feels this calling, comment below. I choose to build a life that echoes.